In the next minute, I will show you how to add text in DaVinci Resolve, make it cinematic, animate it, and even build your own subscribe button, so you never miss the next tutorial. Okay, so let's get straight to work. I've prepared 2 scenes from Iceland and we can start adding text. First, you have to make sure that you are in Edit tab here at the bottom of the screen. And later, you just have to click Effects, then go to Titles, and here you can see some basic titles that are static and also Fusion titles that are pre-made with some animations or special effects. Maybe the effect you're looking for is here and you can use it straight away. Now we are going to focus on text. That's just the most basic title that you can add. So you want to click and drag the title to the timeline. Now, as you can see, it's on the black background, but if you want to overlay it on your video, you can drag it and put it over your video. As you can see, we've just added text to our video, but now we should focus on making it more customizable. To change your text properties, you should click Inspector right here, and now you can type what you want. So, for example, nature. In the Inspector tab, you can find a lot of options to customize your title. Now I'm going to show you what those options do. First is the font family. Here you can choose the font of your text and make it to fit your project. Later you can choose the type of the font that you chose. For example, you can add bold or italic, maybe you can make it light. Underneath you can choose color of your font, so for example you can make it red. You can change the size of the text by dragging on the bar, or you can click and drag to the right or left on the numbers. The next setting is tracking and it changes the distance between individual letters. Another option is line spacing. We can change the distance between 2 lines. Next, you can see some of the basic settings for text. I think that it's nice to play with those settings to see what works for you. Below you can find stroke setting and it adds a colorful line around your letters. You can also change the color of this line and you can also choose if it should appear only on the outside. Now I'm going to zoom at the text. You can see that our text has the shadow. You can turn it on and off using this toggle, and now you can see the effect before and after. You can also add more blur to the shadow or no blur at all, so now you have this sharp shadow. Or you can change the opacity, so how much of the shadow is visible. Another thing that you should know is how to move your text, so you just have to click it and you can move it on the screen. If you want to be more precise, you can also go to Settings over here and you can change the position and every other aspect like rotation angle, anchor point and other details. And now only last setting is left, that is background. And I'm going to use another title for showing you the background. So here basically you are adding the background to your text. You can adjust the height, the width of this background so it can be like a bar, but I'm going to show you how to change it even more. So let's change the color here to, for example, red, and the outline is dark. But now we have no outline, so we are going to add outline here and then change the width and the height of the background. And as you can see, maybe I'll make it a bit wider, we've just created our own custom subscribe button. We can change the opacity of the background, so make it completely transparent or make it completely solid. And now we can also change the corner radius, so like this, but I think that this works fine. And we can also move it, so we can drag it and move right here. We can also change the size of the text itself, or we can change the size of all this button by using settings and then zooming here in the settings. So this is the effect of our 2 texts, but now let's animate them to make them more cinematic and good looking. The easiest animation that you can do is fade in and fade out. To do this, you have to hover over your text and use one of the sliders to fade in and the other one to fade out. And now you achieve a very good looking effect that animates your text. To add something more dynamic, you can click Effects once again and then video transitions. In video transitions, you can choose one of those transitions and add them to your title. For example, I'm going to use an effect called Pop Wobble. You have to click it and drag to your title. Now, the title has an effect that is much more dynamic. We can change the details of this effect by clicking on it and, for example, dragging. Now the effect will take longer. One of the effects that I like to use is push. It pushes the title in and later out of the screen, just like this. You can also always change the details of the effect in the Inspector tab after clicking on it. For example, I'm going to add motion blur to the first push to make the title blurry. There is also other way to make animations. It's by manually making them with keyframes. As you can see in the Inspector tab, for example in the position setting, you can see this sign. This is keyframe. When you click it, the DaVinci Resolve remembers those settings that are at this exact moment in timeline. So, for example, if you move your cursor and change the settings, for example, change the position of your text, the keyframe automatically updates. And now you can see that DaVinci Resolve made an animation that follows the settings that you set with your keyframes. We can use it combining few different settings. So, for example, I'm going to add keyframes to position, zoom, and rotation angle. So now the program remembers my settings, and I'm going to move it to the middle of the text and then change the zoom, for example, the zoom of the text only, and the position of the whole box and the rotation, and then the keyframes updated automatically, and I can go to the end and, for example, reset those to the default values. So I can double click on position, double click on zoom, and double click on rotation angle. Now DaVinci remembers this and it updated the keyframes. I can check the effect by playing the video. So those are the settings that you are going to use when making a title and adding text in DaVinci Resolve. If you want to make even more customizable text, you can use the text plus function that you will find in titles. It's here, you can add it similarly to the basic title, and it has a lot more options. For example, here you can choose out of a few presets. You can choose red outline, you can choose black shadow, and customize all the options here. So the color of the shadow, the softness, the position. So there is a lot of more options that I think it's most valuable to just go through it all. You can set a lot of keyframes to actually all the settings. So here you are even much more precise with setting every aspect of your text to fit your needs. I'm going to show you one of the effects that I use the most from Text Plus. But this time I'm going to focus on Write On option. So as you can see here, we can choose which letters are written on the screen. And we can use it to create a very nice animation. For this animation, you want to move the slider to 0 and 0 and click keyframe. Now the DaVinci remembers that at the beginning of the text, there is nothing on the screen. And then, depending on where you want to have your title completely visible, for example in the middle, you can set the Write On again to the default settings, so 0 and 1 at the end. And now the keyframe is updated, and as you can see, our title is being written on the screen in the real time. It's really good effect that you can fit to your music, and it adds a very cinematic look to your image. If you want to be even more precise, you don't have to just add the start and the end moment. You can choose the moment between each letter. So for example, let's again do 0 and 0, click keyframe, and then move the cursor where you want to see your first letter, for example right here. And now I'm moving the slider just to see the N. Now I can see the N letter, and then I'm moving the slider once again, and for example let's say that I want to see the next letter after a long time, for example right here. Now I can move it, and yeah, we can see the letter A, and the keyframe is updated. And now let's say that I want the rest of the letters appear quite fast. So I'm moving the cursor and moving the slider to the end. And now the keyframe is updated, and as you can see, we have N, A, and later the letters are moving quickly. For example, it can fit your music or your creative look. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you liked it, make sure to subscribe and check out the next one. And remember, let your films be shot by reality.